I want to go back. I want to touch again back into Ukrainian war, but more I want to focus on the Russian propaganda, because I'm hearing a lot of fucking Russian propaganda or mistruths from people that are just repeating stuff that the Russians are saying. Okay, got politicians here, you got Trump here repeating these points that are just silly and just it's just false. It's just completely false. One thing that made me go into this thinking about this topic was recently you and Manny have joined that guy speaking about like what caused the Ukraine war back in 1991.
Sachs. Jeff Sachs,
whatever. Yeah. I kind of made my point that this is kind of what I was shared in a little chat group.
On Ukraine. This is not an attack by Putin on Ukraine in the way that we are told every day. This started in 1990, February 9th, 1990. James Baker III, our Secretary of State, said to Mikhail Gorbachev, NATO will not move 1 inch eastward if you agree to German unification, basically ending World War II. And Gorbachev said, that's very important. Yes, NATO doesn't move, and we agreed to German unification. The U.S. then cheated on this, already starting in 1994, when Clinton signed off on basically a plan to expand NATO all the way to Ukraine. This is when the so-called neocons took power. And Clinton was the first agent of this. And the expansion of NATO started in 1999 with Poland, Hungary, and Czech Republic. At that point, Russia didn't much care. There was no border other than with the Königsberg, but other than that, there was no direct threat. Then the U.S. led the bombing of Serbia in 1999. That was bad, by the way, because that was a use of NATO to bomb a European capital, Belgrade, 78 straight days to break the country apart. The Russians didn't like that very much. But Putin became president, they swallowed it, they complained, but even Putin started out pro-European, pro-American, actually asked maybe we should join NATO when there was still the idea of some kind of mutually respectful relationship. Then 9/11 came, then came Afghanistan, and the Russians said, yeah, we'll support you, we understand, to root out terror. But then came 2 other decisive actions. In 2002, the United States unilaterally walked out of the anti-ballistic missile treaty. This was probably the most decisive event, never discussed in this context. But what it did was trigger the U.S. putting in missile systems in Eastern Europe that Russia views as a dire, direct threat. In 2004-5, we engaged in a soft regime change operation.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. If you're loving this content, hit the like button and subscribe and join to our awesome community. Ring that notification bell so you'll never miss a beat. Together, we're building something so special. Let's grow this channel and let's have some fun along the way. For some more content, check out these other fantastic channels. You got Checkin Habs, one-stop shop for all those things. Habs, sports, we got so much information on sports, guys. Come on. Hello. Checking accounts. Dive into the world of finance and economics, baby. Let's go. Big money. So that's it, fam. Come and check us out.
But the main thing he talks about is this promise that was made in
2004?
No, 1991, that the West, NATO will not go east. Okay? You have to understand the context at the time. The Soviet Union was pretty much on the verge of collapse. Okay? There was the time of the German unification. Remember, there was a time it was East Germany, West Germany.
Sure.
The Berlin Wall, they took down the Berlin Wall, there's going to be unification. So when the United States said this, it wasn't even like an official thing. It wasn't something signed. It wasn't a treaty or anything, but it was just said in a speech. The United States promised this. They didn't go to Germany. They didn't go to fucking East Germany and start setting up NATO bases there. They kept their promise. We're not going one step east. At a Soviet time, when all of the Soviet Union was collapsing, You know how vulnerable they were? And the United States kept their promise. They didn't go east. They let Russia rebuild themselves. They let the Russia become a democracy.
That they did go east.
This is later on. This is not 1991. Right. But it wasn't like a treaty or anything signed. It was just done in a speech. And they use it as a point that since that point, the U.S. NATO broke the rules. They lied. Let me tell you what happened in 1994. 1994, there was the Budapest Memorandum. Okay? Who was involved in this? It was Ukraine. It was involved Ukraine, Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. What is the point of the Budapest Memorandum? When the Soviet Union fell, Ukraine had the fourth largest arsenal of nuclear weapons. No, third. Did I say fourth? Third.
Okay.
After Russia, it was Ukraine that had the most nuclear weapons in the world. So what they did is they made if Ukraine was the third, but there was still Belarus, Kazakhstan. Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan offered to give up their nuclear weapons to sign this Budapest Memorandum, which the signatories, which were Ukraine, Russia, United States, United Kingdom. Well, it's more Russia, United States, United Kingdom, to respect the independence of these countries, the sovereignty of these countries, and the existing borders of these countries. Ukraine, Russia signed this. It was Boris Yeltsin or whatever at the time. There, he became the first president, and they also committed to refrain from the threat of using force against Ukraine. This is all in that memorandum they all signed. So let's not talk about breaking contracts and breaking promises, because Russia right there broke the is breaking the promise. In 1997, there was the NATO-Russia Founding Act. 1997. This is Russia volunteer, because Russia at that time with Yeltsin, they wanted to be part of the Western world. They wanted to be part of NATO. They wanted to be like a modern democratic country. So they agreed to be part of this alliance. They allowed and agreed NATO to want to add new members to NATO. Russia at that point even wanted to be part of NATO. This act did not prevent NATO enlargement. So Russia technically on paper agreed to NATO expanding. They were okay with it. Well, they were okay with it, but they did this so they had a voice of kind of some sort of negotiating power, to allow which countries can be in NATO and stuff like that. So this is just a pact that they did they understood that NATO was expanding and they accepted NATO was expanding, and they just had a seat at the table when NATO members came. They can say their grievances or stuff like that. So those two things, Russia promised to respect Ukraine's sovereignty, respect that it's its own country and that it makes its own decisions, and B, this whole NATO thing, not Putin agreed, but Boris Yeltsin, those people agreed that NATO is allowed to expand, and they're okay with it up to a certain point. Maybe that part with the Serbia bombing, maybe they started freaking out a bit, but my point is this whole thing that the United States broke the promise by continuing to go east is bullshit, because Russia throughout the years after that, 94, 97, they agreed to allow NATO to expand, and B, they said they would respect NATO, Ukraine. They would actually protect Ukraine from their enemies, and they would respect their existing borders and their independence. So this whole thing, when this guy talks about that U.S. broke the deal, I just want to say that Russia just as much signed treaties and everything.
Valid points. Valid points. It's pretty cool.